Andy, we're live.
We are live.
Yes, isn't this exciting? With my
Man, it's
weird
been
lighting
a
and
long
all.
time. It's been
What's
a
up,
really
bro?
long time.
You look so cozy.
I'm in my living room,
I see
living it
that.
up.
All right. So, hello, everybody. It's Friday night, and Dr. Art is off taking care of some kind of like crazy secret thing that he does. I don't even know what he does. It's like a mystery. His life is a mystery. He comes in, he does with me, and then he goes off, and the next thing you know, headlines happen. But I have no idea what he actually does. So in his place tonight, we have the legendary Andy Wood from Unity Motorsports Garage. If you guys aren't familiar with Andy, Andy is the guy that I go to when I have carburetor problems. So that says a lot, right? Um, so yeah, say hi to Andy, and if you're not familiar with, like I said, go over his channel, Unity Motorsports Garage. Go give him a like, a sub, a share. Name your dogs after him. Do all of that stuff because he's an awesome guy.
About all
And,
that.
and we have not talked in a while. How are you, man?
I am doing well.
Yeah,
Been busy. Just moved into a new house. Trying to get
congratulations.
settled. So you know how it goes.
You have more workspace now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had me a nice shop out back, something to work out of. Yeah.
Nice. And are you still in the same area in North Carolina?
Yeah. I moved probably 15 minutes away from where I was at.
Okay,
So not too far away.
excellent. And how's the channel going?
It's doing good. I mean, steady, just trying to find time to make videos between work, family, moving, life.
Well, that's the thing about you. See, he puts out quality videos. He puts out really good stuff, and he has a full-time job. You're like one of the few people I know who does that. Most of the people who put out, like full-length feature videos, that type of stuff, are doing this full-time. You actually work a full-time job and
Yeah,
do this,
it's
which,
tough. I
to
mean,
my
it's
way
a
of thinking,
balancing act.
it's that's impressive, bro. And look
Well,
how good your lighting is compared to my lighting, and I'm supposed to be the professional. Oh, I'm like the creature of darkness.
yeah,
I well, I'll, you know what it is? It's the way the sun is coming through right now.
yeah,
Today is the longest day of the year,
it is summer solstice.
June 20th. Yep, longest day of the year. So let's say hello to some of our guys in here. Oh man, Wayne Buzzle, Kevin Smith, Sixth Street Garage. How you doing, brother? Um, Lots of Kevin Smiths there. Old school Rocco. What's happening, man? Bill McKeiska, he's always in here. Roy Miller, Fun with Cars. Frank Ermo, uh, Los Pennies. Yes, we know. Fix it again, Tony. It's an Italian car. Uh oh, Kevin Smith is telling me my audio is horrible. Dude, we just played around with the mic back. We went back and forth, back and forth. It was a little crazy. We had to settle on this just so we could go. Um, so, so can you see the chat on your end?
I can.
Okay. So if you see anything that jumps out at you, highlight. You can highlight it. I think. Correct.
Okay.
All right. AA is saying he enjoys both of our channels. Thank you.
Awesome.
Um, John Q is chanting UTG, UTG, UTG.
Rocco
And
saying
Rocco
no.
saying the audio is always horrible. I know, I know.
Keeping it real, Tony. That's what it's about.
Grounded, man. We're grounded over here. That's uh, Rocco saying it's no worse than usual. Stephen Bucky saying he'll listen to this in a couple of hours when I go to bed. There you go. That's why we do this. It's like your lullaby. Your gearhead lullaby. Um, just please keep your PJs on. That's the only thing I ask. I think Andy would agree.
We don't need to see all that.
Yeah, if you listen to us in bed or anything like that, please keep your PJs on. Um, Old school saying we're the realist on YouTube, and so is Andy. So what's new and exciting, brother man? What's going on in your world?
Well, been doing a lot of drag racing.
Lucky you.
But the problem is, I ain't been able to race my truck. I've been helping everybody else trying to get their stuff sorted out. And it's like, man, I want my turn.
I actually enjoy sorting other people's stuff out more
I do
than
too. I do too.
when you take your own car. It's always the liability if you're going to go home and have to fix the damn thing. When
Yep,
you're with somebody else's car, they got to fix it.
that's right.
Right. I'm more than happy to stand on the starting line and just point. um, Rocco is asking, can Andy tell us about the Autolite Holly 4100?
I don't know much about those carburetors.
Okay.
I've worked on a couple auto lights in my lifetime, but as far as sorting them out, I couldn't tell you.
You familiar with the Summit version at all?
The Summit version is pretty cool, which is pretty much a restamp of the old auto light deal, but I still haven't messed with many of them.
That Autolite car, the Summit carburetor surprised me.
You had one. You put one on.
I had one. I had it on a 273. I had a 750 on a 273.
Yeah.
And it and we ran a thing on a not the Draggy. What was the other one?
The G-Tech.
The G-Tech, which lasted me like I don't know. I got maybe a couple of weeks out of it, and then it took a shit. But
That's been like 4 or 5 years ago.
yeah, yeah. But I had that on that 273 Dart, and that carburetor actually surprised me. It ran so clean, it ran so nice, and I did it back to back with that against the what did I have on there? I had an Edelbrock. I had a 600, then I put an 800 on it, and then I put the Autolite on there. And the Autolite ran better than the others. And it was just such a sweet, happy. It was like all of the nice things about a Holly with none of the leaks.
That is the beauty of it.
Right? None of the. Well, that was Holly redid it because originally it was a Ford Autolite carburetor. Then Holly bought that and produced it for a while.
Yep, in the probably 80s or early 90s.
Yeah, and they changed the accelerator pump and a couple other small things, made the jets all interchangeable with the Hollies, and then Summit bought it. But I think they're great carburetors. Let's see. Andy has a slight echo like a CB radio. Well, it's because Andy vibrates at a very high frequency that messes with audio equipment. And,
Right.
and it's it's good. It drives my dogs crazy every time Andy's on there because they hear it. They can pick it up. Rocco is saying it's a cross between a Carter Edelbrock and a Holly. Yeah,
It really
well,
is.
Let's see. Lost pennies. Do you think it's better to have the island hour meter to change your oil? Island hour meter. Or is it better to have it measured by mileage for an oil change? Mileage.
Yeah. Unless you're like a cop and you're doing a lot of idle time,
Right.
something like that. Maybe that's what he's talking about.
Possibly. I don't know what he means by island hour meter, but I know what he means by
Right.
an engine hour meter. Yeah. Well, I mean, in some situations, like aircraft, or
Mhm.
or very slow moving, like farm equipment.
Mm-hmm.
Mileage doesn't really count. It's the time that the engine is running. But for a car, it's better measured in mileage.
Yeah.
Kevin Smith wants to know, is Dex Cool still an issue?
Nope. I don't think so because most of those cars that have the decks cool, they're
God.
pretty much off the road.
But they have so many different types of antifreeze,
Mm-hmm.
which is like another thing. I was actually going to do a video on that because, I mean, up until recently, you go back 30 years ago, right? It was antifreeze. Done. Okay? Antifreeze. And then you had the Dex Cool because General Motors just had to, and then Ford followed up with theirs. So now everybody's got a specific, and now it's like there's like 10 different types of antifreeze.
It's really crazy.
Have you seen the prices on some of this stuff?
It's
Like $30 a
unreal.
gallon?
it has gone out the roof. I remember being able to buy a gallon of antifreeze for like $5.
$5. You're young. I remember
Yeah.
99 cents, right? And that was, it went from like $1 a gallon, okay? On all of a sudden, bam, it went to like $5 because there was
Mhm.
an explosion. There's always an explosion at a refinery someplace. They did that to us with nitro. It was like $500 a drum, $550 a drum, and it was like, oh my God, it's so crazy, insane. And then it went to $1,000 a drum overnight because some freaking plant blew up. They did that with Freon. Freon
Mhm.
was like 3 cans for $1 until the Freon plant blew up, and then it was like $5 a can. And then they did it with antifreeze, which was like cheaper than dirt, one type, one size fits all. And then they had their plant explosion, and it went to $5 a gallon, and then up from there. You know what I do for? I revel in my cheapness sometimes. Okay, you know what I do for antifreeze? I
What's
go to
that?
pull apart. I go to pull apart. They have it for $3 a gallon, right? And it's green,
You
with a
can't
little
beat that.
tinge. I'm like, you know what? That's fine. This will work because I don't want to have, I don't want to live the kind of life where you pop a hose or something like that, and you're like, oh, this is gonna be $40. No,
Yeah.
yeah, no. So I go to pull apart and I buy 20 gallons at a clip for $3 a gallon, and I stick it up on the shelf and I just pour it in as need be.
Let's talk about the greatest scam of all time, the 50-50 mix. Paying
Yeah,
$20 for a half a gallon of water.
yup, it's crazy. And now there's 10 different grades of the 50-50 mix. There's the Toyota antifreeze, the Honda antifreeze. It's just, everything is like that today. Everything is like that today. Overcomplication, overpriced, overcomplication. It's just insane. Um, let's see. Kevin Smith is saying is 95 Oldsmobile had Dex Cool. Everyone told me not to use it. Never had a problem. I forgot what the reason. What was the reason for the Dex Cool again?
Well, that was back in the time periods where starting to transition to aluminum blocks,
Right.
aluminum radiators, and so that's where that thought process come from.
That's what killed a lot of Fords.
Mm-hmm.
The 3.8 V6.
Yep.
If you didn't have the right antifreeze in there, over let's say the course of 2 years or so, it would etch away at the head gasket, and it would be the right front. I don't remember how the cylinders are numbered, but it was either the right front corner of the engine or the left rear corner of the engine, and
Yep.
you'd pop the head gasket there, because the gasket electrolysis would etch away at the gasket.
Yep.
I did one of those a week back in like the early 1990s.
Good money maker.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. Fords are what allowed me to build a nitro car.
I can believe that.
It was it was Fords, right across the board.
I already know what got you quit working on vehicles, and that's the single overhead cam 4.0.
Have you ever encountered one of those?
Yes. Yes. And that's a nightmare.
Did it hurt your soul?
Yes. I'm sitting
Because
here thinking, who could think that this is a good idea?
what killed me was that I worked on enough of the 4-liter pushrod motors and had a couple of them. I had a Ranger with a four. Actually, I had two of them with the 4-liter motors, pushrod motors, and I was fond of them. I thought it was a great design. They were happy. Like how do you screw this up? You know, well, they did it, but they didn't just screw it up a little bit. They screwed it up in every way they possibly could.
Worst design ever,
It
in my
hurt
opinion.
me. It hurt me. Mexican Spec is in the house. What's happening, bro?
Long time no see.
Yes, that is Andy Mexican Spec. Uh, it's a quiet night tonight. I think everybody's out enjoying the longest evening of the year.
I can't say I blame them. How hot is it being there?
It's about 90 today.
Yeah, same here.
It's about 90. I was out on the bike. Right, I need to get a little psychotherapy in, and it was just absolutely perfect. Do you still have that the Honda Monkey?
No, I sold that thing like an idiot.
Why?
Cause I never did really ride. You know how it is. You get a bike and you ride the newness off of it. Then it's like, okay. Then it sits there.
Many times.
Yeah.
Many times. I've streamlined my fleet down. I got rid of everything except Sportsters and Sportster-based bikes. So that's why I only have one, like there's one design engineering
Yeah.
philosophy that I have to contend with. So I've got the two Sportsters and I've got two Buells, like the Buell Ulysses and a Buell Blast, little
The-
single cylinder. It's like an oversized monkey Grom.
yeah. Those are actually pretty cool.
Which one, the Blast?
Yeah.
They're fun, man.
They are fun.
People look down on them, but there's nothing like a 300-pound bike with a low center of gravity to just swoosh around. They're awesome.
Isn't Buell back in business?
Yeah. Yeah, they're using like old Rotex motors now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Did not know that.
Um, they started to actually even when they were with Harley Davidson, they started to work with the Rotex for their race program.
Okay.
And then once the deal with Harley Davidson was over, that was the end of that. 79 XL here. Yes, that's the odd year out, man. The 79 is got a lot of weirdnesses to it. That's
Yes.
the first year for the newer type of frame. There's something with the ignition on those too. I forgot what it was. But yeah, they're very, very cool bikes, man. I loved Ironheads. I don't have one currently in the stable, but I would not mind an Ironhead. Mark Sauvé's in the house. What's happening, brother? 77 degrees in Detroit. How is your buddy doing? Oh, Fubar's in the house. Hey, Fubar. I didn't.
Hey, Fubar.
Slatfish Garage. What's happening? Oak Ridge. I love that area. I love all of Tennessee. I love the whole Mid-South. Perry Ford wants to know, does anyone know why the VRS Edelbrock 950 you can't get? Is there a shortage of those carburetors?
I don't know. I'm not aware of any. I know that when I was at the Edelbrock plant, they had a whole stockpile of prototype 950 main bodies there. So, and that was before they were even released. So I don't know what's going on now.
They might have sold them quick.
Yeah. That by far is the best carburetor I've ever used.
Is it really?
It really is.
What do you like about it?
The throttle response out of the box, not really having to touch the mixture screws. I mean, it's pretty much throw up and go. And we took the wagon to the track and did a back-to-back test between a carburetor that I built probably 20 years ago, and I've just kept evolving it and put that on out of the box, and it was like 3 numbers faster, untouched.
Really?
Yeah.
And what do you attribute that to?
Well, you got 4 circuits in that carburetor. The idle circuit split into, the high speed is split into, and so you have a more perfect fuel curve throughout the whole RPM range.
Okay. See, I'm not that familiar. I did a video on them when they first came out, but that was the beginning and the end of it. I haven't actually even seen one in the flesh ever since.
They're awesome.
What do they weigh?
They're aluminum, so they're pretty much comparable to just a regular Holley aluminum version now. It may be just a few ounces heavier because the main body is about 3/4 of an inch taller, but
it's not 12 pounds like the old.
No, it's not like an old zinc carburetor.
Zero is in the house. What's happening, Zero? Um, shut up snacks. They're being quiet right now.
Yeah. So did you watch any of the War in the Woods?
I just saw clips.
Dude, it was like the craziest thing ever.
Did you
It was,
go?
no, did not go. And here's the thing, man, those cars have gotten crazy fast.
Yeah.
Our buddy who used to run a 2-valve 4.6 with us, he's now got a Coyote in his car. He made a 5-second pass on Cooper Cobras. Can you believe that? At War of the Woods.
What?
Yes.
On Cooper Cobras?
Yes, sir. Hard tire class. 5-second pass.
Are you serious?
As a heart attack.
With the 4.6?
No, with the Coyote. He's
with
done
Coyote.
the 2-valve stuff and done
Ah, but
Coyote.
still. How much was he spraying at it?
Oh, he's turbo.
Okay. That's probably why
Yeah.
he was able to pull that. We got Cooper Cobra.
Is that not insane? That's a possibility?
That's either some brilliant chassis tuning or the best dumb luck.
It's power management, man. Those tow road cars, they're able to pull so much power out of it and actually get it. And they all pretty much have traction control.
Yep.
And so it's riding the traction control throughout. So it's not allowing it to spin.
Sunday, I'm supposed to race a 500 horsepower Porsche
Really?
against Mission Improbable. Street race.
That will be interesting.
I'm counting on the traction control. I'm counting on the traction control, bringing the power way, because 500 horsepower becomes 95 horsepower like that. You know? Instantly. So I'm counting on being able to, to hit them on the line, and then because it's a very snotty place. I chose the strip. It's
Okay.
very, very snotty. So I'm counting on the traction control coming in at least 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, don't bet against Tony, y'all. I'm telling you. He's hurt my feelings, okay?
That was dumb luck, bro. You know that. I know that. That was just luck. That was just luck.
Oh, Lordy.
I was supposed to race Dr. Art with Bottle Rocket, and we go. we told, this is why we need our own like place to run. We don't have. There's nobody in the area here that does any like regular racing. So there's no pad you can go to and just let it happen. So
Yeah.
everything is just bare naked pavement, and I was supposed to race Dr. Art with his Ranger, so I had a Bottle Rocket all ready to go, and this was at the end of the year, and we tow all the way out to the track, and we get there, and they were closed because of mist.
Really?
The track is in the middle of like Amish country there, so there's all farmers' fields and stuff, and when the weather is just right, the mist is just crazy. So we got misted out, and then circumstances since the beginning of the year have kept me from getting to the track at all.
Well, I don't know how it's been for you, but here, our test and tunes are on Thursday night. And it's been raining about every Thursday night for the past month and a half.
Yeah,
Rain
we got
is
rain.
our enemy.
Last year we got rained out 11 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
11 weeks in a row. Zero just put up the link to Andy's channel there.
Thank you, Zero.
Yes, Zero. So we'll click on that. Thank you, Zero. So everybody, if you're not already subbed to Andy, go over there now and subscribe, and he'll make you the better gearhead guy because he's brilliant. Mark Survey wants to know if you're still doing things with David Vizard.
Yep. He's about 5 minutes the other direction instead of being 5 minutes the other direction.
Okay.
So
you orbit around.
yeah.
Yeah, and in Mexican spec, he thought Mother Nature hated him. It was rough last year. It was rough. Scoop is saying first day of summer, so I'm expecting the doors to start putting Christmas stuff back on the shelf. Yep. So what size Cooper Cobras was he running? Now that I don't go down my head because I got Cooper Cobras.
275 60.
275 60. And did he treat them? Did he shave them? What did he do to them?
He did wrap them with some PJ1 and some cellophane.
Okay.
And but according to him, he's actually got a YouTube channel. You can go watch the video. But
what's the name of his channel?
Andrew Lavender.
Andrew Lavender?
Yeah.
Okay.
His channel name is his name.
Andrew Lavender.
Yeah. And but he said it didn't really think it made a big difference because the tires were just so hard it didn't really goo them up or anything.
I have Cooper Cobras on my Charger, on my '67 Charger.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like a 4,000-pound car, and it's got like a stock 440 in it. And when you step on the gas, it just freewheels those tires.
It's the same way on my truck because I had them on Casper, and you could do rolling burnouts for days.
Yeah.
You know.
Does he have any video of that car making those runs?
Mm-hmm.
On those tires?
Yes.
Oh, God. That's awesome.
Zero's then found a link to his channel.
Yes, Zero. Thank you, Zero, for putting that link up. Rocco, with a name like Lavender, you're going to have to learn how to be tough pretty quick.
Yeah, so back when we were doing mod motor stuff with him, we beat him the first 2 years at the Mod Nationals, and then he finally got that turbo combination sorted out, and he finally was able to get around us the third year. So that was in like 17, I think it was.
I'm going to go check that out after this is...
Oh, you have to see it.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. That's why I love drag racing, because there's always like something just like that, just like out of the blue, running into fives on Cooper Cobras. Could you imagine? You go back to when we were kids, right?
Yeah.
And it's like 1432s, you know what I mean? With these giant tires, and now it's like the sport has just become so crazy with just what people do. The fast cars to me are the most amazing of them all.
Absolutely.
Stock size tires, G70 15s.
Technology, I'm already starting to see kind of the end of the no prep thing, because what's happened is no prep was supposed to be the equalizer, right?
Yes. And it was for a long time.
And it was taking things back to the bare bones basics. Well, now technology has gotten these cars to where they can go in there and make a few strokes on their laptop, and they can go A to B, no problem.
But it would be easy enough, and if the people, the powers that be that run that stuff, it would be easy enough to just make it a foot brake thing. Just no electronics. That's it.
Yeah.
It's just your foot, you know what I mean? And that's it.
Yeah. Then they have to police it.
I watched that happen. It happens in every form of racing.
Every form.
Every form of racing, where it's just like, okay, technology, and oh, this is all good. But every time the technology goes up, the number of participants goes down.
Yeah.
And it becomes less interesting. Like,
Yep.
I remember like when I was a kid, you go to a national event, and it's always like for qualifying, it's always the cars at the lower end of the spectrum that are the most interesting.
Yep.
It's always the local guy. It's always the offbeat car. It's always something that's just like, oh, that's really cool. But then technology keeps going up, and those guys keep dropping out until finally everything is just cookie cutter and it's all the same.
Yep.
And I mean, that's what's happening now with the whole no prep thing. I loved. I was talking about small tire no prep stuff literally in 1983.
Yeah.
1984. When I first started, when I started doing the magazines, 1984, 1985. That was like I'm saying it was my idea to do it, but I was already there mentally. It's like, yeah, what we need, what drag racing needs, is just like a small tire class, basic, and but it keeps going up and up and up and up and up, and the number of participants go down and down and down, and like like you said, it was the great equalizer, and it's not the great equalizer anymore,
Yeah.
and that sucks. I did see there was a lot of wreckage.
A lot of wreckage.
A lot of wreckage. I get. I guess that's what happens when the traction control says, "Okay, all good."
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that's where people hit that scramble button and they see that they're getting outrun. And so that instinct, like full send, and the track can't handle it.
Oh, yeah, okay. Hippie Long has a question for Edelbrock. I needed an early 273 intake. I contacted them and asked them have them make a run of intakes. They said it's too expensive. Is it just different holes? Yes, that's all it is. The port location and size is the same as all of the other the 273 and 318s, but it's the now I've done this in the past. You can slot the holes, the bolt holes, and run the standard intake manifold.
That's what I was going to say. Just slot them.
Yeah, yeah. Take the stock, take a 318 intake manifold, slot the top of the bolt holes, and then just run the 273 bolts in, and it'll work. Throw some washers on there. Slandfish Garage wants to know, Andy, what's the best way to tune a carburetor? Vacuum gauge or wideband O2 sensor and an air fuel meter? What's your 2 cents?
Well, I'm old school. I mean, a vacuum gauge will get you your idle mixture stuff perfect. I love using widebands, but they can get you in trouble. At the end of the day, the spark plug is always the final judge of what's happening. Okay? Because in a wideband, and I'm going to give you an example, wideband O2s are typically in the collector. You can have 3 rich cylinders and 1 lean, and it will average it out, and you will think everything is good, and you will hurt that 1 cylinder if you're not careful.
I'm glad you said that, because that's my thoughts exactly. Everything is at the spark plug, unless you're taking reading at each individual header tube.
Yes.
Nobody at our level is going to be doing that.
No.
So yeah, no, Andy's right. The spark plug tells the tale every friggin' time. New York in the house. What's happened in Phil Molina? Let's hear stories from the 70s racing and connecting. I missed connecting highway by like 5 years. That was all done by the time I came in. And connecting lasted to around 1975, 1976. And I came around like the late 70s, like 79, 80, I was out there, doing my thing. So by that point it was gone. Everything was like Fountain Avenue, 150th Street, South Avenue on Staten Island. But connecting was over with by then.
Yep.
I got to know a lot of those guys.
That was a pretty big hotbed there for a while, though, was it not?
Yeah, it was.
That was the place.
Yep, that was. You do a lot of historical videos. That would be a really good one for you.
It really would. I need to do that.
There was, I know, so Nunzi Romano, the Pontiac guy, he used to run the GTO on Nitro there. The guys from B&L Auto in the Bronx ran a top fuel dragster there.
That's crazy.
Yeah, no, New York, I'm telling you, New York was a rocking place back then.
Crazy. Pontiac and Nitro, 2 words you never hear together, really.
That was him and I guess Arnie Beswick.
Well, that explains that.
Did you see that video there on a Pontiac motor?
Yes. I did.
Is that Arnie has 2 factory cast Ram Air 5 blocks that are specifically for nitro. They made them specifically for Arnie, and he's got them sitting there.
That's what you call pull when you can have them make you something like that.
Yeah. Well, he was like the Pontiac's last hope in
He
like
really was.
funny car racing.
The farmer.
The Boss Bird. He had, when he had the fire in, because that was like a milestone in his career.
Mm-hmm.
He had a fire to burn down his barn. So while he was giving me the grand tour of, this is where we buried this car, this is where this was, and we got to an area, a storage area, and he had a stack of 1964 Hemi K heads, right? A stack of them, and I picked one up. It was cracked across the top, and as it turns out, they were all shattered. They were in his barn when he had the fire, and they got hot with the fire, and then when they started to hose things down, they hosed down those heads, and the heads literally shattered like glass.
Yes.
And then there was a stack of probably, I'm going to say like there were 12 of them, just piled up on a pallet, and all broken up like glass. That was that was a weekend I'll not forget. That was pretty cool. He's very down to earth guy, man. Very down to earth.
Yeah, when you're in that situation and you're doing that, you're just trying to soak everything in. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. What was cool with that was that I met him on 2 levels at the same time, because I was working for Superstock and Drag Illustrated, and I was doing a story on him, and at the same time I was out there working with a Top Fuel car. So, oh no, it was a fuel altered. I don't remember what car it was. I was working with some car, doesn't matter, and so we met on that both level. You know what I mean? It was like as doing the magazine story and as fellow fuel heads.
You're right.
So it was neat. He towards the end, right? He says, "Come here, I have to show you something," right? So he goes through this area. I forget if it was a separate building outside his, whatever it was. It was an area that was apart from the rest of his stuff. And I said, "Come here, I got to show you something." So he climbs up into this like loft area, and he's fumbling around for a minute. And he comes back down, and he's carrying a yellow fire bottle, right? So
okay.
He gets on the ground, and he hands it to me. He says, "Do you know what that is?" I says, "Yeah, it's a fire bottle." He says, "That was Jungle's fire bottle."
Oh, wow.
It here. Yeah.
Wow.
He forgot it here. He stayed for a while, and he left it behind. And that was like one of his prized possessions was Jungle Jim's fire bottle.
Mm. Definitely gone too early.
Yeah. He went out in a blaze of glory. Well, I mean, he went out at the top of his game.
He did.
You know, that's one of the things about legends. You know, because legends that stick around for too long.
Yep.
They'll kind of tarnish themselves as they go forward.
Yep.
But he went out. Boom. That was it. He owned the world at that point. So the legend just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
Something else.
Let's see. I was talking about heads. So, Andy, scroll through the chat. If you see anything that's interesting, anything you want to jump on. Let's see. Who knew a streetcar would kill Jungle? Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I was there at the corner on the 20th anniversary. There was an impromptu get together, and
really,
yeah. So a couple of crew guys, a couple of people from Nick Bonnet Fond's team, and nobody never really talked about it, but it was in the air. And on the 20th anniversary, there's a curve. It was on 22 in Chester, and there's a curve and an intersection there, and everybody just kind of like met, but we didn't really meet. And we all just showed up, stood around for a little bit, and then everybody just left.
That's
It was
pretty cool.
weird, but it was very cool. Um, Jimmy Luce, yes. Wasn't Andy supposed to drive Battle Rocket at this race season? Yes, we had planned on going to War in the Woods, which probably would have been a pretty bad idea. But I had circumstances come up outside of YouTube, outside of everything. I had some circumstances come up that have kept me very close to the house, and I haven't been to the track in months. I haven't been able to do anything, really get involved in anything, other than just a couple hours here and there. So yeah, we had plans to do that, but sometimes life gets in the way of other things.
Yep.
And priorities and responsibilities are what they are. And we'll do something in the future. I would love to do something with Andy. I'd love to work hand in hand with Andy.
We need to do something.
We will eventually. Eventually. Yeah, I know. You still have a thing about you want to build a dragster.
I do. Bad.
You know, I'm so there with you. You know what I mean? Whenever you're ready,
I mean, that is probably the only thing my wife would let me sell Casper to do is build a dragster, a front engine. Yeah.
Well, we got to talk about this. You've seen Jeff's car, right, from Two House
Yes.
Garage?
That's a beautiful car.
That's a nice car. What would you want to do with this thing?
You know, I'm close enough to the Southeastern Gasser thing, and we have a lot of nostalgia events around here that just go and do like exhibition run type stuff and just have fun with it. You know what I'm saying? Not try to kill myself because, that's always an option. But I just think it would be cool to get out there and smoke the hides. And I'd want it to be a clutch car. I have no ill will towards people who build these with automatics and stuff, but true to the spirit, man, it's got to have clutch.
Blown alcohol, blown nitro,
Yeah.
Injected. What would
Yeah,
you?
it definitely have to have some nitro in the tank. I don't think we're going to throw the can at it, but I think it would be fun just to.
What would be really cool would be a period junior fueler.
Yes, I
Right.
thought about that. That would be awesome.
A 305 on the can.
Yeah.
On the can. I have someplace around here. I have to dig it out. Now we're gonna start boring people with nitro stuff. I'm sorry, guys. You got to understand. We geek out over this shit. I have to find this. I'm gonna do a video on it. There was an a junior fuel team from Southern California named the Ig Brothers, IGE.
Yes.
They were Japanese.
Yes.
Okay, so they were running this car and they were hitting 195, 200 miles an hour with it. This is in 1969, 1968, 1969. And they did a story in, I think it wasn't Drag Racing USA, it was one of the drag racing magazines, or drag racing only magazines. And the story was How Stock Is My Fueler. Okay, hang on, let me whip her out. Yeah. The story was called How Stock Is My Fueler. And they did a teardown on this engine. And it was all like completely stock 283 parts. Stock crank, stock rods, stock pistons, stock everything. They put a cam in it. They said that the only point of failure that they were having with this was the early motors had the cartridge
The oil filter.
Yeah. And the nitro would wash the ink off of the fuel for the oil filter, and that was it. Other than that, that was the only failure point that they had in this thing, and they were buzzing it like 8,500 RPM and running over 200 or right at 200 miles an hour.
When you think about it, that is so impressive because they didn't have the aftermarket to, grab parts from. I mean, like you said, they built it from what they had and sent it.
Yep. We had Gene Adams too. He had a DeSoto, a 276-inch DeSoto that was running over 200 miles an hour.
It's crazy.
You know, that I know now they're running injected nitro cars in alcohol dragster, and now they're having limited blown nitro in alcohol drift. Don't ask me how they're doing this now, right? But,
Yes.
right. So, but nothing that the common man could get involved in.
Nope.
You know, now if they were to come up with a class, if like the Heritage Series or whatever, was to come up with a class that dictated, a very simple drag, so like a maximum 170-inch wheelbase, production block, production cylinder heads, production crankshaft, okay? Limited to like a stack injector, that's it, Hillborn or Enderley or whatever it is, just limited to a stack injector, a 175 pump, okay? And
Perfect.
Clutch and high gear only. A pedal clutch, two-disc maximum, and high gear only. If they were to come up with a class like that,
Dude, I would love to just sit and watch that class. I mean, people would just flock to it.
yep. But the people who run our sport in general, they just don't get it. They don't understand. They think that it's all about technology. They think it's all about, the fastest. It's not. Drag racing, the magic of drag racing is the coolness factor. It's based on hot rods. It's not like Formula One. It's not, you know what I mean? The essence of drag racing is hot rods. It's my hot rod against your hot rod. And who can outthink or who can out hustle or whatever it happens to be. That's the spirit of drag racing.
And it gives, it's attainable to people.
Attainable, exactly. It's the girl next door. You can get that.
I'll give you a prime example. At my home track, Shadyside, which I love, we have a class, Shadyside Outlaws. These cars are high 4-second cars. Well, what's happened over time is it's kind of slowly dwindled. Car count down to 5 cars. We started Carolina Street Truck, which is pretty much street trucks you drive on the street, people can relate to. People are going crazy over that class. And they're not fast. They're fast, I guess you could say, relative. Low 6-second passes, but people love watching that stuff. It's relatable.
That's what people want to see, the stuff that they can relate to. That was what made popular. That was made like pro stock as popular as it was early on, because it was cars you could relate to. I have a Cuda. Sox and Martin, well, they have a Cuda too. Yay, let's go. You know what I mean? It's like they were relatable. That was the appeal. It wasn't just it was gasoline and carburetors. Who cares? It was the cars were relatable. Just like Funny Car. Funny Car was where it was. Funny Car went through 2 phases before, in my opinion, it crashed and burned. And the first phase was Match Race Madness, 1965 through 1968, 1969, okay?
Yep.
Maybe even into 1970, where it was a free-for-all. But it was all based on, there were cars out there, there were flip-top cars out there that were all steel. They weld the doors closed, they weld the hood closed, and they lightened as much as they could, and it was a flip-top car. There were cars there were flip-top cars that had doors that would open. A driver's side door would open.
Absolutely.
Robert Roy Harris had a Valiant, a Plymouth Valiant, that was all steel, flip-top car. People related to it. It was like, look, it's a car just like mine, except it throws flames and it goes crazy down the track, and people ate that up. And then you went to the next phase where they got swoopy, and this ended in like 1983 three. It ended with Bernstein and the Batmobile.
Batman, yeah.
Up until that point, and the funny car became something a little bit different. Now it was just this 16-foot long, specialized but beautiful thing, right? You look at funny cars from like 1960, 1979, 1980, like that. Beautiful paint jobs, the bodies were just right, they sat just right. Like
Yes.
picture like a Plymouth Arrow or a Chevy
Oh,
Monster
yeah.
from that era. And then the Batmobile came along. And rather than the powers that be looking at this and saying, no, the people can't relate to this. They're like, oh no, now everybody do this. Everybody do this.
Yep.
And it killed the appeal of the class.
Absolutely.
Let's see, we're ignoring the crowd here.
Yep.
Um,
I did see a comment where somebody asked what I do for a living.
oh, wait, Bill McKeisker here to super chat.
Oh,
Thank
wow.
you, sir. Went on
Nice.
Sunday, sell on Monday.
Yeah. And that's how it was for years.
Just watched the making of American Graffiti 2 last night with Steve Evans announcing. Steve Evans was a very cool guy.
Yes.
I only met him once or twice, but here's my memory of Steve Evans. So this guy was like all over the map, right? He was on TV all the time. He was he was the official announcer, the official voice of NHRA, Diamond P Sports Days, right?
Yeah.
So you would think that this guy was like saturated. You know, it's like he's got enough. We were running Top Fuel at Leicester, New York. So we're running Top Fuel up there. There's an IHRA event. So Evans has no association or anything like that.
Right.
And as I'm getting ready to start the car, I look over and there's Steve Evans standing off to the side, rocking back and forth, rocking back on his heels, you know, with his arms folded, just looking at what's going on. It's like he wasn't just the announcer for the NHRA. He really loved this stuff, and he would go to any race and just get as close as he could. The guy was unique. He was very cool.
And that's why I think he was so good at what he did, because
Yep.
he had a passion for it.
Yep. Now you were saying you mentioned the comment.
Yeah, there was a comment asking what do I do for a living. So I build Freightliner trucks here in Mount Holly. I've been there for 27 years, going on 28. And unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know how you look at it, but I've been there so long. I'm a lifer, okay? So to do YouTube full time, you know, I've got retiree health care and a pension that I would be walking away from here close to the finish line, so to speak.
Right.
So we'll see what happens.
It's a hard way to make a living. It's great. Like I'm doing this professionally now, full time for 7 years.
Yes.
It's great. I wouldn't trade this for it. It's a great job. Man, it's you know, the hustle never stops. The wheels are always turning. You've always got to come up with a new idea.
Yeah.
And then the more videos you put out, it's like the fewer ideas you can put, because you've already covered this. You know what I mean? It's like the audience doesn't give you the luxury of like redoing a topic you did 6 years ago. They jump right down your throat. You already did this. You already talked about that. Well, there's only so many things in the world of cars you can cover, you know?
Exactly.
But you, I think, will do fantastic because you make such nice videos, you historical videos. You and Brian Loans, you guys both do just such nice freaking videos. You could just sit back and watch, and you know.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. You know, I need to get back into doing more historical videos. You know, I remember you telling me when I first started doing YouTube, you kind of need to have a tripod effect. You know, I don't want to box myself into one corner doing one thing. So, and just like you're very versatile. You never know what you're going to be doing a video on. And it's a generalized idea, but so I like being diverse. I don't like being a one-trick pony, so to speak.
I do YouTube the way I did magazines.
Mm-hmm.
I think of each, let's say, I don't do this officially, like write it down, but I view each like month's worth of videos as like the stories in a magazine. So if all of the stories are exactly the same,
Yep.
it's all the same. It's all a how-to, or it's all history, or it's all perspective, or stuff like that. It's like it gets boring.
Too
So
much of a good thing is bad.
I, I try to break it up, and so that it's like this. It's like the editorial package of a magazine. It's like, okay, well, here's an opinion piece, here's a tech piece, here's an event coverage, here's a car feature, here's a history thing, here's a personality profile, and those are the elements that make up a well-rounded magazine. So
Yes.
that's how I approach YouTube. It's like, well, I don't want to do another tech video today because I've already done 3 of them like that are currently in the pipeline. So let's do something historical, or
Right.
let's do something, the engine history videos. Did you watch those
I
by any
did.
chance?
I did.
Was I
Loved it.
unfair
I
to
mean, I'm
was I
going to be
unfair
honest.
to the Fords?
Yes, I'm going to be honest with you.
Go ahead.
You're 100% right. And I'm a diehard Ford guy.
Okay.
Uh, here's a little known fact. Um, and this makes a lot of Ford people mad when I tell them this. I said, do you realize that a big block Chevy went faster in top fuel than a Camry ever did? And most people don't realize it, but like in the early 70s, you had people still hanging on to the big block Chevy trying to run funny car, running 650s with factory parts.
Jim Walker.
Yeah,
He ran. He ran a five? He ran like a 597
there you
with
go.
a ZL1.
Yeah.
That was a factory ZL1 block.
So, I mean, it's pretty impressive when you think what they did with factory parts. And I've said it, and you said it. The camera was an answer to a question that you was
Nobody
never
asked.
asked.
It's an interesting engine. It's a
I love
neat.
it. I think it looks super cool.
I, I, it's like I wouldn't kick it out of bed for chewing crackers. It's, what I mean. It's a cool engine, but like the problem is Ford guys tend to be delusional.
They gravitate. They hang their hat on it, and
Right,
you can't do that.
and they come up with stuff like nothing ever beat the camera. The camera was. I mean, you've heard it, you've seen it. I
Yeah.
got it in my comments. It's like the camera. What about the? They outlawed it. They make it. No, I mean, it was a neat engine. It was an interesting engine, but it wasn't. It was by default because as I explained in that video, there's no way to pass the exhaust push rod the way they did on the Chrysler.
Right.
It's just the luck of the draw. The FE block is narrow and it's got a
Hmm.
very tall and flat, like you can't move water jackets around. It's got a tall and flat valley. The camera is relatively low. And so there's no way to get an exhaust push rod to go all the way over and operate a rocker.
Nope.
So Ford engineers were like, well, how do we make a Hemi head if we can't get a push rod out there?
Yeah.
And they're like, well, let's put overhead cams on it. And that was it. It's as simple as that. But you talk to Ford guys and it's like, they outlawed it. NHRA outlawed it because they wanted Chrysler to win in top fuel and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, oh, please, come on. It is what it is. And it was a neat engine. It was a novelty, but it definitely wasn't.
Well, and the thing is, I mean, it only scored one win in pro stock in national event, and that was Dino Don and
Yeah, that was on Nicholson.
I mean,
And that was in 1970.
71.
Which
Because
race? Do you remember?
Summer Nationals in Englishtown.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
But I was more than fair, I think, to the Boss 429.
Yeah.
Because that's an engine that, when it was originally released, people tried it. Coletta tried it. Mickey Thompson had a whole fleet of cars out there with the Boss 429s, and they didn't work in that application.
Oh,
But then later on, when Mountain Motor Pro Stock comes around, it's like it was like almost like it's like they designed Mountain Motor Pro Stock around the Boss 429. It was that effective.
yes.
And I remember that period of time. One of the cool. I was there for all of this, but I wasn't like I was doing the funny car thing at the time, so I didn't get to participate, but I got to watch firsthand all this stuff happen. The door slammer race for 200 miles an hour, and I was there at Darlington the night that Bill Coleman ran the 202.
Yeah.
But at that time, it was Bill Coleman came out of the blue and ran the 202. But at the time, Ricky Smith and Bob Glidden were both knocking on it without nitrous with
Yes.
the Boss 429. They had both gone like 197.
I mean, and that's what that engine needed. It needed more cubic inches to work with those cylinder heads.
Yep.
Um, talking with Sam Moxier Jr., I did a live chat with him. He said, when they first started running them in pro stock, Ford gave them a mandate. Said, you're going to run this engine. And about midway through the season, man, they were sneaking and putting their cameras back in the cars because they were 3/10 slower. Those engines were designed to run 7,000 RPMs around Talladega and Daytona.
Right.
And not blow up.
And they did that great. And you could see that NASCAR did them dirty because right at that point is when they put the slam on cubic inches.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. But I felt that I was fair to the engine, but the Ford guys, man, they did not like that. That video's got like, out of all my videos, most of my videos get like 90, they're in the 99 likes.
Yeah.
So, right,
Percent.
99.4, 99.6, and that one is at 96. So there were a lot of angry Ford guys who
A lot of
like,
angry
like, I hate you. I lost a lot of subs with that video too. But you just got to tell it like it is.
Well, I mean, it's history. It's not that we're changing it. We're just telling it.
Right, exactly. I'm not making anything up. I'm telling you what these guys ran, and I'm telling you what parts they broke.
Yeah.
Because they were breaking parts. There were reasons that there were failures. And Ford always does this thing. Always. Why couldn't they just put a normal freaking head gasket?
That was a brain fart if there ever was one. Everything's over. I mean, in theory, that's how you would want it to be. It's perfect seal, but practicality, it did not work.
Have you seen, talk about weird Ford stuff, have you seen the 2.7?
Oh, the EcoBoost? Yes, that is very weird. The bottom end, how the crankshaft is that far from the deck.
I just saw a video on it like yesterday, and I'm like, what? What? Huh? Why? Why would you do that? I mean,
well, why did Ford need 3 different 351s? Think about that. A Windsor, a Cleveland, and a modified.
Yeah, and then you had at one point you had a 427, 428, and 429, all completely different.
Yes.
All at the same time. All right, let's get back to these guys over here.
Yeah.
Thunderbird's not feeling validated, so you're going out to the garage. Thunderbird, did I miss something here? I'm sorry.
Look, I love Fords. I mean, I absolutely love Fords. But, every brand has its problems.
Yes. Ford just has the thing. Okay, so it's like you could find the weak link in Chevys, you could find the weak link in Chryslers, but it's not because they did anything different.
Right.
It's just here's the weak link.
It's the inherent weakness.
Always come with they did something different.
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason I should need 9 different timing covers for a small block Ford. Just say.
Right.
3 different timing pointer locations. And I could keep going.
had to run a 500 Cuban EXP. Well,
Yeah.
Glidden had two programs going at the same time. He had the legal NHRA program, which was 500 cubic inches, and then they had the IHRA program, which was unlimited cubic inches.
Yeah.
And then some of these guys that were running both also ran the AHRA program, which was only like 1 or 2 races a year, and that was mountain motor and nitrous.
Yeah.
But there wasn't a huge difference between the performance of the 500 the NHRA legal cars and the mountain motor, because you would think 200 cubic inches is going to make a big difference in performance.
Not really.
It didn't, because at the time, mile an hour wise, the legal NHRA cars were going like 180, 185, and the mountain motor cars were going like 190, 195. There was like an 8 mile an hour difference, but it's like 200 cubic inches.
And in fact, if you go back and you watch a lot of the old races, I mean, even Glidden ran his 500 cubic inch pro stock in a lot of the mountain motor races.
Yes, he did.
So,
Now, I remember, I have pictures. I was covering one of the IHRA races, where Glidden was running the mountain motor in the car, and I clicked just as the car, maybe the car rolled, like, was 3 feet out. It just hit, okay, and I clicked, and when I got the picture back, it looked like it was a bad picture, like it was blurry and stuff, but it wasn't. When you really looked in at it, the whole car had rippled.
really?
Yeah, like everything on the car was just rippled and distorted, and it looked like it was a bad picture. But it was actually, that thing had such a violent reaction and such tire shake that right off the starting line, that car went whang.
Yep. It's like a spring or a slinky.
Oh yeah, it was crazy. And then at that point, I believe that's when he started putting the 500-inch motor in the car.
Yeah.
And he was running right there with Ricky Smith was almost at 800 cubic inches.
Yeah. But the weird thing about the EXP, and this story's been told a bunch, is, you know, before that they were doing pounds per cubic inch. They went to the EXP program, and then mid-season they decided to come out with a 500 cubic inch rule, and so they wound up having to put that in the EXP, and it was an ill handling car. You know, it was short wheelbase. You know, if it would have still had a Cleveland in it, it would have probably been totally different. But, you know,
I think they jumped the shark.
They did.
They should have stuck. They should have stuck to the pounds per cubic inch. I think the only reason why they did that was just because policing everybody was out of hand. So it was like, okay, everybody here, go take 500 cubic inches and run with it. And
Yeah.
I think it was also to make it uniform. You know, have all their pro classes were limited to 500 cubic inches. But I think they jumped the shark with that. But I think where the sport, the entire sport really jumped the shark was with Buddy Ingersoll.
Yeah.
Because that car, right? So Andy, look,
That car was insane.
I have seen goats fuck in the marketplace. You see what I'm saying? I
Yeah.
have seen everything. Everything. The most impressive car I have ever seen was Buddy Ingersoll's car, the V6 Regal. The most impressive drag car I have ever seen. What that thing used to do to back tires was obscene. You've never seen a tire wrinkle the way this thing did. The car was amazing. And rather than, here's this car that literally, bro, I mean, when he would run that car, I remember this distinctively, it was like 1987 or so, like at Darlington. When he would run that car, every racer in the house would drop what they were doing.
Go to the gate or go to the fence.
And go to the fence. It didn't matter whether you were stock limiter or top fuel. When Buddy Ingersoll was going to run that car, everybody ran to the fence because you had to watch this car. It was that amazing. And rather than the sanctioning body saying, yes, okay, this really represents what's built today in Detroit, and this is what the average person can buy, and it puts on an amazing show, they outlawed it.
Yep.
It's like every freaking thing that comes along that's cool or innovative or grassroots or squash it. Just make it go away.
Yep, it doesn't fit in our box, so we're not going to allow it.
That would have been pro stock today if it had stayed on that path.
It would have been so different.
It would be so different. We would all be sitting here right now. I don't know. Can you name a single person who races pro stock anymore?
Greg Anderson and Eric Enders, and that's it.
I don't even know those names. But if they had stuck to that path, right, and kept the cars true to what was out there in Detroit, right now we would all be talking about the current events in pro stock.
Mm-hmm.
And who's doing what and what's coming out. They could have kept that fresh and interesting for 100 years. But instead,
nope. And what happened with the whole 500 cubic inch deal is the engines got so far removed from anything production based. It became its own entity. With the DRCE, Chevrolet stuff, and the list goes on.
Oh, the Oldsmobile motor too. That was the Warren Johnson's deal.
Yeah.
You know the story with that one, right?
No, what's that story?
They took a diesel block.
Oh, yes.
An Olds diesel block. A lot of these guys probably never heard this. They took an Oldsmobile diesel block. This is when you still had to run a block that matched the nameplate that you were. So Warren Johnson took an Olds diesel block and hollowed it out. They just took a mill and cut the center of the block out. And they rebuilt it with welding rod. They refabricated the entire bottom end structure of the engine in welding rod and then machined it to be a big block Chevy.
There you go.
It bolted in a big block Chevy crank, and so it was just. And then you had the Oldsmobile race motor coming on after that. But,
I actually know where one of those blocks are at. The dyno facility. Yeah, one of the dyno facility that I use.
Yeah.
Greg Finnegan. He's big into olds, and he's got one of those old pro stock engines.
Dude, I would love to see that.
I'll take some pictures next time I'm over there.
Is it one of the ones that
it's been totally done up like what you're saying?
I know of it, but I've never actually eyeballed it.
It's it looks like I got a hold of it and tried to do it, but it was functional. You know what I'm saying? It's not pretty.
My life to see that thing.
Yes.
Absolutely, yeah.
I'll send you some pictures.
You should do a video on that.
Yeah.
All right, let me scoop back through here.
Surely they've got some questions for us tonight.
I'm sure they do. But of course we're Dead Dodge Garage. Jamie's in the house. What's happening,
Jamie,
man?
what's going on, man?
Jamie, did you get that text I sent you? Are you mad at me, Jamie? Okay, talking about the Drag Boss Garage interview with Warren Johnson. He talked about it. I didn't see that.
Yep.
Let's see.
Don't call us Shirley. Okay. You have to pardon my North Carolina accent, Mexican spec. Shirley.
Straight Bullet is saying a lot of nitrous oxide was used in pro stock. They needed those strong blocks. No, now again, see, this is like I never actually saw any of this stuff with my own eyes, but I heard about it firsthand from people who actually, and I won't even mention names, but I have become friendly with a couple of people who are in the nitrous oxide industry, all right, and like most people would know their names, because early on in their career they were nitro heads, and so we met on that level, and I became friendly with them. So I got a lot of the inside dope on how these guys were running nitrous, and who was running it, how they were running it. There were water jackets in blocks that were pressurized with nitrous. There were multi-layer hood scoops. There was all sorts of stuff that was going on in that particular period of time, like 1987, 1988, 1989. There was all kinds of nitrous, things going on.
Well, You know, someone mentioned Jerry Eggman. He had his tank in the oil pan and it exploded in the pits. Got permanently banned.
There was the Glidden
Hmm.
did you ever see my Glidden interview?
No.
Drag Racing Monthly, or was it Drag Racing? I don't. I think I got a copy of it someplace. I did an interview. So now remember, I was doing the magazines. This is
Yes.
1985, 6, 7, 8, right? And I'm doing Cars Illustrated magazine. So I'm always in the pits. I'm always talking to people, and I had become acquaintances with the Gliddens. We're like buddy, hey, what's going on, right? But I'd walk past and I said, what's going on, Bob? And he says, oh, I know, just hustling, can't talk right now. And Etta would go, hey, Tony, how are you? And I went, hi, Etta, right? So it was all like, it was that type of thing, right? You
Right.
go to the track and you see the same people all the time and you become
Mhm.
acquainted. So there was an incident, and I don't remember all of the details now, but it happened at Milan Dragway, and it was it was an IHRA event. I don't remember. I don't remember if it was an NHRA or an IHRA event. Doesn't matter. And they pulled Bob Glidden out of line, and they wanted to inspect his stuff. They wanted him to tear down his deal right there in front of everybody because
Oh.
somebody had told them that he had nitrous. So they wanted a tear down of his engine in front of everybody, out in the open in the pits, and he refused to do it, and he was going to boycott. Okay, so with that, he got all of these other racers to go along with him and say, we're going to boycott this event. You can't do this to Bob Glidden. And again, I'm paraphrasing. I don't remember the exact details. This is 30 years
Yeah.
ago. Was it 30 years ago? This is
40
40
years.
years ago. 40 years ago, I wrote this story. So, make a long story short, they all said that they were going to boycott. And then the next morning, they all show up to run. They left him out to dry. So I met him at the next race, and I says, Bob, do you want to talk about the incident that happened? So he says, yeah, let's do it. There's no exaggeration on that. I've got Norman Blake. You know the photographer Norman Blake.
Yes.
Okay, he was working for me at the time. So we go into Bob's trailer, and Norman Blake is sitting there taking pictures, and I put a tape recorder in front of Bob, and I say, all right, Bob, tell the story. So he goes on for the next like half hour, and he recounts every bit of this event that happened over the last couple of days, right? At this last race. So again, he was saying like one of his quotes, this is directly from the story, I printed it, it's there. His quote, right, talking about the other racers who didn't boycott, was like, I wouldn't give them the sweat off my balls if they were dying of thirst. Okay? He was livid. So we get to the end of the interview, right? Or it wasn't really an interview, so here, Bob, speak your mind, right?
Yeah.
We get to the end, and I knew he had said some pretty crazy stuff in there. So I says, Bob, listen, I'm going to replay this, okay? And anything that you don't want in, I'm going to hit the record button, and we're going to make it disappear. And his words to me, Norman Blake is my witness, I said it, you print it. Yes, sir. I'm a 20-something-year-old punk. I'm not, you know what I mean? I'm not going to argue with Bob Glidden, right? So I did that. I brought it back to the office, had it transcribed, and they printed it verbatim, exactly as it came out of his mouth. So now I'm happy with this. I'm like, great, I did a good thing. I gave Bob Glidden a venue. I gave him a national magazine where he could speak his mind and get it off his chest. This is really good. I feel good about this. So I see him at the next race, okay? And I'm gonna walk in and I'm expecting him to be like, man, thanks, I appreciate you giving me the. And so I walked over to the pit and he says, Bob, how you doing, man? And he's just looking at me, right? He says, you printed that, didn't you? I says, well, yeah, I mean, you told me to print it. He says, you shouldn't have run that story. I'm like, but you told me, to run the story, and I gave you the chance to like take out anything you didn't want. And then Etta came over, and she started bawling me out.
What?
So So now there's this $30 million lawsuit between the IHRA that all came as a result of this story getting out. I got named in a $30 million lawsuit between Bob Glidden and the IHRA.
Oh, wow.
And it got settled and nothing ever came from that. But yeah, I was named in a $30 million lawsuit.
You got
And
another.
just to say, I never had any real relationship with the Gliddens after that.
That was the end of that.
That was the end of that. But I swear, I'm on my eyes. I'm telling you, I remember it like it was this morning. You know, Bob, anything you don't want in here, I'm gonna hit the record button and we're gonna disappear it. Like, no, I said it, you print it. His exact words.
He didn't realize just how much he was pissed off.
You had to be there, man. You had to be there. I'll find that story. I think I got a copy of it sitting over there someplace. But I'll find that story and I'll send it to you. Bill McKeiska, thank you for the super chat. Andy, with your appreciation of history and interest in engines, have you or will do an interview with Dan Ernie and Bill Elliott? That would be very interesting.
I would love
them being competitive in NASCAR is independence with a Ford.
I would love to do something like that.
That would be epic. That would be epic.
Because in the middle 1980s, they pretty much owned NASCAR.
Now, I'm not saying anything negative.
Right.
Obviously, I'm not saying anything negative, but I think you'll agree. Okay. Have you seen the Petty Family Racing channel?
Yes, I have.
Are you consistently disappointed in that there's so much interesting tech and they completely
bypass
it never existed? Like,
wait a minute. If I was there, I'd be like, time out.
Stop right now. Give me a detailed explanation of what you did here. Show me these cool, interesting one-off parts. Show me the cheaters stuff, right? You've got it. It doesn't. Nobody cares anymore, right? Show me the good stuff. You've got.
That's where the meat and potatoes are.
Every time I watch that show, they seem like the nicest guys in the world. They seem like the most grounded people you'll ever meet. I'm grateful that they do put content out on YouTube, but every time I watch one of their videos, I get frustrated. It's like I get to the end of the video and I'm like, why did you let that go? You know what I mean?
Those nuggets are information, man. You can't let it go.
Let's see. Are you? Have you been going through the comments yet?
Let's see here. Who is better, Bob or Warren?
Oh, man. That's a tough one.
That is very tough.
That's a tough one. I couldn't pick one. That's a great question.
My answer is they were both great in their own eras. Their time frame was kind of overlapping. They overlapped, but they were both, I would say, probably pretty much equal in their own eras. I think a better comparison would be who is better between Lee Shepherd and Bob Glidden, because that was the real rivalry in Glidden's career until Lee got killed.
Well, that was more of a driving thing.
Yes.
Where when you talk about Glidden versus Johnson from an innovative technological standpoint, that's a whole different
conversation.
In my opinion, Glidden was in his glory, okay, when he was, let's say, 1977, 8, 9, when they were still running pound per cubic inch. And he was running with the Cleveland, and then he went Mopar for a year, and he didn't skip a beat.
Did not miss a beat.
You would think, right? No, so you know how involved the pro stock
Mm-hmm.
effort is, right? Whether it's now or 50 years ago, it doesn't make any difference. It's all in, okay? So you would think running a Ford full time and then just out of the blue switching to a Mopar and you don't skip a beat.
That's impressive.
That's more than impressive. That's superhuman.
And what you need to realize is look at the other Mopar teams that weren't competitive. I mean, Fox and Martin came out of retirement and run
Sure.
79 and 80 season, and their engine program was nothing like Glidden's. I mean, they could not compete with Glidden.
Well, by the time they what were they weren't running a W2. They were running a D-stroke Hemi, weren't they?
No, it was W2 stuff. And I actually talked to Buddy Martin, and Buddy told me that Jake King, which was their engine builder back in the heyday,
I knew Jake King.
so whenever they split up in like 73, late 73, 74, Jake went on to do other things. So whenever Ronnie and Buddy got back together to run Pro Stock, they didn't have anybody to build their engine. So they got a company in Michigan, I think it's called Traco or Traco.
Oh, okay, yeah, Trico.
Yeah, so they built their engines, and well, you see how competitive they were.
I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah,
They had done some match racing. They did some pro stock match racing, right around 1978, 1979, and they had a Hemi in the car then. I know that, and it was uncompetitive.
yeah,
Uh, but I guess the legal cars they were running the W2 stuff. I had met Jake King a time or two. Um, he was brilliant. He was brilliant. He was a hired gun. A lot of the guys in New York used to hire. He worked for the Mutt Brothers. He was a contractor. The Mutt Brothers had contracted him. They had the S&K Hemi Dart,
yeah.
and that was old Jake King getting that car to work.
I've always wanted to build. There's somebody talking about B1 headed engine. I would love to build a B1 headed wedge, but I would want to build a low deck.
Yeah,
That's just weird, but that's what I like to do.
yeah. At this stage of my life, I'm done with, and I'm not done with them. I don't have much interest in RB motors anymore.
Yeah,
I've become like hyper fond of the B motor,
yeah,
and especially the 3D3.
yeah,
It's my favorite motor. It doesn't have any of the glory. It doesn't have any of the there's no hoopla around the 3D3. But to know the 3D3 is to love the 3D3. Just I can't explain it to you. It's a happy engine. You tear one apart, it's happy. All the relationships are right. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a holistic engine. Kind of like the really small
More
block
stroke.
motors.
I mean, everything about the low deck stuff, I think, is so much better. That's just my opinion.
So did Chrysler. Of course, when they were going with the ball stud program, when they were getting ready to do that, that was all based on a low deck. They had two versions of that motor. So that was supposed. I don't know if you're familiar with the ball stud.
Mm-hmm.
That was supposed to replace all of the big blocks and the Hemi, tie them all into one, and essentially it was a big block Chevy. They took a big block Chevy cylinder head and they mounted it on a 400 block. Like literally, that's what the ball stud was.
Yep.
But they had two displacements, and they had the 400, which
And a
was the same
444.
444, and that was the because so the 400 block is 3.34. The 400 block is 3.34. The 440 block is 4.32. So the 440 is automatically 20 over.
Right.
So you end up with, if you put a 440 crank in a stock 400 block, you end up with a 444.
Yeah.
So yeah, even Chrysler was like, okay, we're done with the RB stuff. It's going to be B based from now on. Mike had to say NASCAR is still looking for its identity. No, they're done. There's no
They're
identity
done.
anymore. They're done. I wish it wasn't so. I mean, I was never a I was a big NASCAR fan the Earnhardt days. Like I was a big boxing fan during the Tyson days,
Yes.
right? It's like you know what I mean? It's like a whole different thing, right? And then when Tyson, retired, and it was like, okay, no more of this. And it was just like with NASCAR. When Earnhardt died, it was like, I'm just done.
Yeah.
There's no soul left to this, and it's gone downhill ever since. Um, Mark Survey, what about Wayne County speed stops? Very wide B2 valve covers look like big block Chevy to me. I got in a lot of trouble with that. I did this in Mopar something magazine. I don't know. I wrote 4 of these freaking Mopar magazines. But I I was tasked by the editor of the magazine to do a story on the Wayne County B1 motor,
Yeah.
and I called it like it is. It's a big block Chevy.
Mm-hmm.
Period. The end. Okay. Bore spacing. Great. You take a big block Chevy crankshaft and drop it into one of those Wayne County B1 motors, and it's a big block freaking Chevy across the board. So I got in trouble for calling it like it was. I all kinds of heat from that. I don't show favoritism. I have my favorites, okay, but I don't. When it comes to talking about this stuff, I try to maintain like journalistic neutrality,
Right.
and I look at each different engine and each different situation based on its own merits. Not the fact that, oh, this is a Ford and I hate Fords, and oh, this is a Dodge and I love Dodges. I look at each one. You know what I'm saying?
I do too.
And I try to be as fair and impartial as possible. I feel that's my responsibility as a journalist.
Talking about Ford, well, like you just mentioned, the Mopar. Let's go back around 2008 when John Force come out with the Boss
Oh,
500
please.
hot fuel engine, which was nothing more than the Chrysler Hemi with Ford part number.
Not even no. It's just the main bearings.
Yes.
The main bearings. They put the main bearings in the Ford parts book, and they call it so what they did with that was they anodized the engine blue.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. The block.
They had special valve covers. I forget the motif of the valve covers, but the valve covers were a unique style. It said Boss 500 on them,
Yep.
and but it was 100% a Chrysler engine, but it had Ford part number main bearings in it.
That wasn't fooling anyone. Just look at the distributor location.
Well, they fooled a lot of people because
Yeah.
the average, okay, we're savvy. We look at this and I can identify a Chrysler from Telstar. I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
but the average person doesn't get that. They don't understand that. It's
Right.
like Connie Coletta running around with his funny car. The Boss 429 all over it, and it's got a
And it was a
freaking
camera.
in it.
I'm sitting here. Yeah, that was the Mickey Thompson Hemi heads, I believe.
Yes. So the Mickey Thompson. Okay, so Mickey Thompson adapted. He recast the early Chrysler cylinder, the 350. Actually, it was the 1956. The head that he used for the template of it was the 1956 354, and he recast that, and he moved the the head bolts. I forget it wider or closer together. I don't remember exactly. Slight variation in head bolt location, and different rocker stands to match up with the head bolt location, and he made those for a Pontiac. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Then when he lost his deal with Pontiac, because Pontiac was just giving him here, take this stuff and run with it, right?
Right.
So when that deal ended, when GM said no more racing at the end of 1863, he went to Ford. So when he went to Ford, he took that same cylinder head that he had recast for the Pontiac, and he reconfigured it a little bit, made different exhaust rockers, and then he made this three-piece articulated push rod.
Crazy.
Which, it worked. It worked. And so it has a short first push rod. Then it has a second push rod that rides on a sleeve that's in the cylinder head. And then it has a third push rod that goes from that push rod to the exhaust rocker. So Ford 427 FE Hemi heads. And then the camera came after that.
Yeah.
Stray Bullet is saying Cletus has been giving NASCAR a small resurgence, but he keeps wrecking. Yeah, and I think that's good. I mean, I like that people are trying. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Rather than just throw your hands up on the whole thing. And Cletus, if anybody can bring fresh people to the stands, it's going to be Cletus.
Absolutely.
Kevin Smith, the first funny car was funny, a 66 Comet. A lot of people don't realize that Ford actually built the first flip top. They built 3.
Yeah.
They had two hard tops and 1 Roadster.
Yeah.
And the Roadster didn't start out that way. The Roadster started out as a hard top, and they lost the roof in testing, so they just kept it a Roadster.
Back then, though, it was so crazy because you had the Mopar altered wheelbase cars, and the manufacturers were really going at each other. You know what I'm saying? And it was like, okay, how can we one up Mopar? How can we one up Ford?
The Match Race Madness days.
Yes.
In 1965 through 1967 was the craziest period in all of drag racing, surrounding the funny car class.
Yes.
The factories were involved. They were, you know, I have or had someplace the Chrysler tune-up for injected on nitro.
That's insane.
Like before the direct connection bulletins that they compiled to make the Bible.
Yeah.
They were a lot of handwritten and hand typed bulletins that they would send to the racers. And they didn't publish so the direct connection bulletins all ended up at the dealer, right? So if you went to the parts department, you go to the hustle stuff area, and they would have the latest tech bulletins, and that's what they compiled into the Bible later on.
Yeah.
But previous to that, they had tech bulletins that were sent to racers. So these things are very personalized and stuff like that. And I actually had a copy of the tune-up, like let's say that Dick Landy would have used, or any of the injected wheelbase, the injected altered wheelbase cars.
Yep.
From the '65 season, the tune-up that Chrysler recommended for nitro.
The interesting part about that car is that '66 Comet. They originally built it with a 4-speed transmission. Can you imagine that?
Yep.
And then it was like, wait a minute, this is not going to work with nitro.
Well, originally it worked when it was injected, but when they went to the blower on it, that was
bad.
just not going to happen. But a lot of people don't. So I had a friend who's oh God, why can't I think of his name right now? He's passed. Why can't I think of his name? I was going to partner up with this guy in a Top Fuel car. Jim Barillaro. Jim, I'm sorry, my brother. Jim Barillaro. So he passed, but he has had Chrisman's Comet, right? And he also had the Saxon Sons car.
Oh wow!
And they're both in Knoxville. They were both in Knoxville. So so if you guys aren't familiar, the Saxon Sons car is considered to be it was Jack Chrisman's at the time.
Yes.
It's considered to be the first true funny car. It's considered to be the first blown nitro funny car. And this was an A-factor experimental car, stock wheelbase, but it had a blown fuel wedge motor in it. At the same time, you had the Pandemonium car, the Barracuda. What was the name? Why am I drawing a
I know
blank?
the car.
You know the car I'm talking about, right?
Yes, I do.
And that came out right after, and that was a completely stock 1964 Barracuda with a
Yes.
blown fuel 426 Hemi in it, and full interior, the whole bit. It was a completely stock car, and they would match race those things. But that Saxon Sons car gets credit as the first nitro funny car, first match race nitro funny car, and then the Chrysler altered wheelbase cars.
Yeah.
And then Ford one up them with the 3 flip top cars, the Comets, and
Yep.
and that's the
That
funny
was the
car
game
that they made.
changer.
Yeah, yeah. So Barolaro actually has both the Saxon Sons car and Chrisman's Comet. I got to push Chrisman's Comet back from a burnout.
That's cool. Do they take those cars out for exhibitions, I imagine?
Well, when he was alive, yeah.
So where are they at now?
As far as I know, I think his kids have them
Oh, my.
in Knoxville. In Knoxville, close enough to you that you could probably get a hold of them.
Yeah, that's 5 hours away, 4 hours away.
Trust me, if you can get a hold of these kids, they're very nice people. If you can get a hold of them, that would make fantastic content for you, bro. Jim had a museum. I mean, it wasn't really a museum; it was his collection of stuff.
Right.
But he had camera things and trinkets, and he was a dedicated camera freak. He had blocks cast specifically to run on nitro. Like all of the frailties of the FE, he took care of that.
Yeah.
He had 2 blocks cast. Actually, it has his name cast into the side of him to run the camera heads on. And he was in the middle of building a front engine top fuel car, and I was going to tune the car and wrench it, tune it, and he was going to drive it. And this was I don't remember the year, like the early 2000s, and he had a stroke while he was building the Dragster. And the Dragster was on the table. He was building a copy of a Don Long car. Gorgeous. I mean, it had just the right lines. You know how today's nostalgia top fuel cars are.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they were weird, right?
That stuff.
This thing was a Don Long car. It was like BB and Mulligan. It was just perfect. Okay, and he had a stroke while he was doing that, and then he passed maybe 2 or 3 years after. He was a good guy. I missed him. We would fight a lot. we, there was never a phone call or an encounter with Jim that didn't end up with us like this. You know what I mean? But you needed that kind of thing to get all of the right ideas out.
Right.
You know. I miss fighting with Jim. He was a good guy. I fight with everybody.
Let's see here. Yeah, we haven't done this in a long time, man. This has been fun.
Ain't Chrisman like 90 years old? Oh, he would have to be.
He would have to be.
He would have to be. You know how he ended up in the funny car, right?
I don't think so.
Oof. You never heard the story?
Mm-mm.
I won't go into detail.
Okay.
Because it's improper, but you'll get the idea when I explain what happened. He was running a top fuel car.
Yeah.
Okay? So at the time, they didn't have a pinion support.
I got you.
Okay, do I have to tell you what happened?
No, I already.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when he got out of the, oh God, but the audience doesn't understand. I'm sorry, guys. Okay. So you know, on a slingshot dragster, you sit with your balls are up against the back of the rear end housing, right? It's like that, and it's just what it is, right? And they'll put a little shield on there just in case the ring gear shatters, a piece comes through, it'll stop it. But those cars also have a pinion support so that it can't rotate. The rear end can't rotate. Well, at the time, 1963, they weren't building pinion supports in there. They were just taking the rear end and welding it to brackets and welding it right to the uprights of the frame with no pinion support. Well, Crispin was making a run and the welds broke on the housing, and right, the rear end rotated around, and you can get an idea of what happened.
That is not good.
Not
Hurt
good
thinking
at
about
all, right? So he was in the hospital for like a year, and when he got out, he's like, I'm not getting back in one of those cars, and nobody could blame him. So that's when he went funny car racing.
Hmm.
Same thing kind of happened to I won't say, but a guy that I knew who raced rocket cars, and I'm not going to mention his name.
Right.
But he was just synonymous with rocket cars, and the story of him, he had been running normal funny cars, and he had a fire, and let's just say he had some of the most unfortunate burns you could possibly have. And he was like, okay, I'm not getting one of those again. I'm going to build a rocket.
Yeah.
So he built a hydrogen peroxide rocket. And set every record on Earth. I think he still owns most of them.
Yeah, they were going over 300 miles an hour probably, what, 20, 25 years before Top Fuel work.
Yeah, I saw, it wasn't, I saw Lou Arrington had a rocket car. Before he went to prison, he had a rocket car. It was a Mustang. That was in 1975. Well, even before that, you had the pollution packer. You had Russell Mendez, which you've heard the story with that one.
Yes.
Yes, they actually had to hose him off the guardrail at Gainesville. Bad stuff. People were racing rocket cars and just dying. It was just like, you had to have a death wish to run rocket cars at this period of time. But, so, Slam Sammy Miller, right, the Vanishing Point car. First time I saw that thing run was in 1977. And this was great. So Andy, those moments that you're never going to forget?
Mm-hmm.
Okay? You never forget the first time you seen a rocket car run. Okay? So, what they did was, this was crazy. This was pure insanity. Now, I got to know Sammy later on, and he filled me in on all of the details with the car and how it was run and this, that, and the other thing. So, what they did now, this was in Englishtown. It was during I think it was like Crazy Eddie's Fuel Funny Car Freakout, right? And they had Sammy's Vanishing Point car there. So what they did was, when they were preparing to run him, they cleared everything behind the behind the starting line out of the way. They took the tree out of the ground. They, just cleared everything and everybody from behind the place. There's the hydrogen peroxide comes out. It's steam, right? But it's crazy. Okay, it's just crazy. It's okay. Like I said, he gave me the nuts and bolts on this. The rocket motor is small, okay? The rocket motor would fit in your hands about like this. It was a titanium canister with a pure silver and nickel screen inside of it, okay? And they would spray pure hydrogen peroxide, like 96% hydrogen peroxide. Well, this is the stuff that if you pour it on concrete, the concrete bursts into flames, okay? So they would spray pure hydrogen peroxide on this silver nickel screen, and it would create the most violent chemical reaction there is. All right, this thing made I don't know, thousands, 20,000, 30,000, 50,000. I don't know how many thousands of pounds of thrust instantaneously.
That's crazy.
Okay? And the car only weighed about 1,200 pounds. So they took everything out from around the starting line, pulled the tree out of the ground, They came out with the car. They pushed the car out. The car was just sitting there quiet, no noise or anything like that. And they brought out surveying equipment. And one guy was down the track a little bit, and one guy was behind the car, and they were lining the car up. And they pushed it. They kept maneuvering it until it lined up with the finish line. Right?
Yeah.
They had the crowd count down from 5, right? So it's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then nothing happens, and all of a sudden the car is gone, like this, okay? And your mind, it was creating an optical illusion. It looked like the car was off the ground and like going like this. Okay, it accelerated so fast up the starting line, you couldn't follow it clearly with your eyes.
That's insane.
Okay. So it goes like this, whoosh, and then a second later, the whole track goes, right? It was like a sonic boom sort of thing. The whole track shook. The air shook. It was the most amazing thing. And then you look, and there's the parachutes. So they had this thing set up on a timer, okay? Because when he would hit the throttle, he'd black out. So, and that's why they had to do the whole lining the car up, because he had no steering control.
He couldn't steer it.
Right. He only had steering control after the chutes came out. So, when he would hit the throttle, he'd black out. The car had enough fuel to go 100 feet under power. And then it would coast the rest of the drag strip. So all the acceleration was right there in the first 150 feet, right? And then from that point forward, it was just momentum and like residual pressure pushing the car down the track. The chutes would automatically deploy 3 seconds into the run. And that's when he woke up. Because when he hit the throttle, the brain would get smashed against the back of his head. He'd black out. And then when the chutes came out, his brain would come back. And he'd be able to slow the car down and turn off the shutoff. And the thing about Sammy was, I guess as I got to know him afterwards, he had a construction company. His family had a construction company, and he used to drive a backhoe for a living. He was the most mild-mannered, easiest-going guy you would ever meet, right? You'd never know that that's what this guy did for a living, or not did for a living, did for a hobby. And he eventually had the Worldland speed record on the ground. He had it on ice. He had it on snow. Like every place you could take a rocket and set a record with it, he went and set a record with the thing.
Yeah. The people in the chat, once this is over with, you should really look up rocket cars. They're pretty wild.
I have to tell you how he died.
Okay.
Because only Sammy could die like this. Okay. He becomes known as a rocket scientist.
Okay.
He's known now through the industry as the hydrogen peroxide rocket guy. Okay, not just for race cars. Like other people were running hydrogen peroxide race cars.
Right.
And they were going really fast with them. But Sammy was in a league of his own. He was making more power with this stuff. He's the guy that got the sale of hydrogen peroxide to the public banned. Because he used to strap this stuff to his ramp truck and run it down the road. Like pure hydrogen peroxide. Okay, but anyway, the Zero saying, boss, always tell how he died every time. It's because it's the craziest story. It's the craziest story. So he becomes known as a rocket scientist, okay? And he is contacted by an oil company. So they had these wells that stopped producing. And he had this brainstorm that if he took a giant hydrogen peroxide rocket and pointed it into the ground, into the well, it would blow the oil out on the other side.
Okay.
So he gets a contract with this oil company that's got these wells that aren't producing, and they're trying to get them to go again. And he builds this giant hydrogen peroxide rocket, and he sticks it in the ground and sends it.
So where do you come up with this idea?
Domino's
Like,
Nabiscus.
at what point do you think this is a good idea? Let's shoot a rocket into the ground. I mean that nowhere on my radar does that make any good sense to me.
He was the
But
consummate. He was the consummate drag racer, and he thought in the terms of the consummate drag racer.
yes,
Right? There's like when you go to that level, you know what I mean? Where blown nitro and then rockets on top. When you go
what
to that
else do
level,
you do?
you detach from the rest of the world.
Yeah,
You know, like things. It took me a couple of years when I got away from the fuel cars. It took me a couple of years to acclimate to the ways of the world.
I can believe that.
Because you become so absorbed and you become so engrossed in this thing that's just extreme. And
Yes,
it's extreme in every way, and it creates this extreme lifestyle with extreme exhaustion and extreme endurance and extreme all of these things, right? And it becomes your normal thing. When you unplug from that, you realize just how crazy it is, and then you have to acclimate to like thinking and doing like regular people do, if that makes any sense.
it does.
So you have to understand the mind of a fuel racer of that era. This is the kind of stuff that they concoct. This is what they come up with. I will
Yeah,
build a giant rocket and blow it out of the ground.
they were definitely chasing adrenaline.
I don't even know if it's adrenaline. I think it's just how far can you go?
Yes,
It's just this challenge. It's like how big an idea can I have? How far can I push it? What are the limits? It's just crazy. You got to be there. Hopefully someday you'll get a dose of nitro and you start down that path and you'll understand it.
I'm ready.
Dude, we're coming up on 2 hours, believe it
That's
or
hard to believe.
not. Hey, you're saying UTG is right. Nothing beats nitro, and you cannot ever acclimate to normal life ever again. I disagree with that. I disagree with that. I actually I just got invited by somebody to go to an event I have near in Huntsville next weekend. He's got a top fuel car, and he invited me to come down, and I'm like, you know,
No,
I'd like to, but I have obligations and stuff like that. I can't really. No, you can acclimate. I've acclimated. The most excitement I really want in my life anymore is I want to pet my dogs. I mean, honestly, it's like that's what you know what I mean.
that's exactly right.
I'm happy petting my dogs. Um, Zero just put up a link to Unity Motorsports Garage. So if you guys aren't familiar with Andy, that's his channel. He puts out excellent content. Like I says, he's the guy. When I have carburetor questions, he's the guy I go to. So, um,
I appreciate you having me on tonight, man. It's been really fun catching up and just hanging out with the crew.
I talked too much tonight. I am sorry about that.
No.
I'm just rolling back through the comments here to see
Oh,
if I missed anything. Uh, Stephen S. Paul, Applied Force was the name of his company. Yes, that's right, Applied Force.
of course.
Um, do you see anything you want to in the
No,
comments?
I think we pretty much covered it. I mean, they've been talking amongst themselves.
They have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry if we ignored you guys. But I start yapping. Um,
But we did give some good bedtime stories to listen to.
yes, we did. I hope. Just make sure you keep your jammies on.
Yes, the important part.
Andy, what do you want to? What do you need to promote?
Uh, I'll tell you what. So we, I've been building this, working on this wagon, Clark, and we're getting ready to do some really cool things with it. That car is fun, man. It still has power windows, still
I love
has
that car.
power seats. It's 3,700 pounds, and it just, everybody's surprised about how fast that thing runs. So,
I love that car. Just tell the guys who are watching real quick what that one is.
Yeah, that one is powered by a 4.6 liter two valve on a little bit of nitrous. It's got about a 200 shot on it, and the combination just works. I mean, it runs low sixes and eights, and now truck wars. Hopefully, I can get Casper back out there. I've been working with a buddy of mine, Jason Black, who has a 76 F100 that I ported a set of big block four heads for him, and he run a personal best last night and actually won the race. I mean, we were putting little S10s on the trailer, so there's 1,000 pound difference between us. But good
But
stuff.
that wagon's putting it to work.
Yeah.
That weight is working, man.
Yes. I mean, that we have a cap on this street truck. You can't go any faster than a 599 because people will be showing up with Pro Mod tube chassis trucks and stuff like that. We don't want that. So it's just been cool getting to come on here and hang out with y'all.
Yeah, we got to do it again soon.
Absolutely.
Definitely. It's been too long since we got together.
Yeah.
All right. So, Unity Motorsports Garage. Guys, go over there. Zero put up the link a bunch of times. I think Fubar put up the link too.
Yeah.
Our awesome mods keep everything rolling, and you guys are awesome. Zero, Fubar, Mexican Spec. Guys, thank you so much. Do you ever do lives?
Every once in a while, man. This is actually the first live I've done in my new house. So you pop my cherry with it. So how's that?
You look so cozy there, man.
Oh man, it's sitting here on the couch just chilling.
You need a dog or something next to you.
Well, normally my cat's up here on the top of but it heard your dogs and it took off.
All right, guys. So I thanked our mods. Everybody contributed super chat. Thank you so much. Never expected, but always appreciated. And everybody contributed with your presence and your conversation. Thank you equally. And any final words?
Nope. Thank you so much for having me, man. It's been fun, and thanks for everybody tuning in. Good time.
All right, I'm going to hit the end button, and that's it. Good night, all. Tonight's first day of summer.
Catch y'all.
Longest day of the year. We missed sundown a little longer.
I know we did.
Good night, all.